When I visited the vast and magnificent land of Russia, I was able to see splendid palaces, magnificent churches, ancient monasteries. I walked so much that near the end of the trip my leg felt as though it were going to fall off. One day I decided to give my poor leg a rest from walking around the earth's surface and instead spend the afternoon at a level of the city nobody thinks of visiting. I went underground and spent half the day just riding the subway. I figured that would give my leg a rest. Was I ever wrong? It was amazing to see the lavish beauty of these old subway stations. Inside and out, they look more like marble palaces or ancient temples. It is the deepest, lowest subway in the world. The escalators and stairs seem never to end. Even the long, moving staircases are illumined by what appears to be torches from an ancient Roman temple. Everything radiates beauty and majesty. In my very faltering Russian, I asked somebody why these subway stations were built like this. Why didn't they just build them to be practical and functional? Why did they spend all that money making them look like temples? The answer I found very interesting. At the time the subway was built, except those used to working in the mines, the people were terrified to go so deep underground. You didn't know what was down there. This was unknown territory deep under the earth. And who knows but that the whole city might come toppling down upon your head. So in order to make it more enticing and a little less frightening, they built the stations to look like temples. It worked. People were drawn to them. The subway was a huge success and remains so. The beauty fascinated me, but so did the people underground. I watched as the crowds kept to the right, as the arrows directed them to do. Every once in a while, though, I noticed with amusement someone walking in the opposite direction from everybody else. There are moments of terror down there. There are places of darkness in these stations deep under the surface of the earth. And sometimes you would see someone standing perilously close to the edge of the tracks, and you wonder whether that person is contemplating ending it all. It was interesting to watch the people sitting on the trains. Most of the older ones had their faces buried in a newspaper or a book, while the very young ones had their ears plugged with earphones, listening to heaven knows what. Those in between had smartphones or other devices in their hands, concentrating on some game. All for the same reason: to pretend not to notice that there was anyone else around them. It is interesting what you see under the surface. I saw a couple of children playing with each other, making mischief. The mother had her face buried in some gadget or another, so didn't bother to correct them. But the children were looking out at the people and looking up at me, wanting attention, demanding to be loved. It's interesting what you see under the surface. You see other things too. There is a real chivalry underground that is seldom to be found anymore on the surface of the earth. You actually see men getting up to give their places to women. And you see young people standing up to let us old people sit down. When was the last time you saw that above ground? You can discover a lot by going a little beneath the surface. I don't believe I rested my leg very much that day. I probably tired it out as much as I would have visiting churches and palaces above. This might have been seen as a wasted day, but it was one of the best days of the entire journey, a day of observation and contemplation. Most people live on the surface and never dare to go beyond the surface of life. To live on the surface in a superficial life is not to live at all. I was reminded of a passage I had read many years before in one of the novels of Umberto Eco, when somebody says, "You live on the surface. You sometimes seem profound, but it's only because you piece a lot of surfaces together to create the impression of depth, solidity. That solidity would collapse if you try to stand it up." God invites us to go beyond the surface, invites us to journey to the depths of our soul, to a level of living most of us probably never dreamed existed. The journey to the depths of the soul is a terrifying one, made a little more inviting, a little less terrifying by the majestic temples God has given us, those temples of beauty, of music, of culture, of worship. We are surrounded by others making the same journey down to those same depths. Our journey, too, is illumined by the ancient torches of faith and hope. We are all invited down to travel beneath the surface. There are many ways of getting down there, but most of us prefer those beautiful old temples to lead us into the depths. What do you see when we reach the depths of your soul? You will encounter there that part of yourself that is always going against the flow, in a direction that nobody else seems to be headed. Are you afraid of that part of you, or does it make you proud? Maybe you should be neither proud nor fearful, but you do need to get in touch with that part of you and be comfortable with it. You will also meet there that part of yourself that is standing on the edge of the tracks in despair. You will find places of fear and terror in the depths of your soul. You will find there that part of you that sits with your face buried in a book or in a gadget, with your ears plugged, so that you can live as though there were no one else around, not caring about anyone. You will find there that part of yourself that is the child, desperately seeking to be acknowledged, desperately seeking to be loved. Oh, but in the depths of your soul, you will find another part of yourself as well. You will find that part of yourself who is willing to stand so that others may sit, who is willing to sacrifice so that another may live. You will find a part of yourself that contains goodness, no, greatness you never dreamed was there. There is a whole different level of living under the surface. As Oscar Wilde put it, to live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that is all. Most never travel beneath the surface of things. Most are terrified of making that journey to the depths of their soul. Let us dare to penetrate the surface. Let us dare to go down into the depths of our being. Let us dare not merely to exist, but truly to live.